Welcome to the SLT podcast, Serious Leaders Talking. You know what we're about. This is a podcast talking about the issues in education from a senior leadership perspective. You have myself, Ziggy Moore from More Education. You know what we do. Check us out, moreeducation.co.uk. We also have
Mr. Crawford, you know what I'm about? Not more education, or do I back more education?
all
We
right.
balling today.
Come on, right? Pull the mic in. Pull the mic in.
This
So
way?
yeah, so they can see the No Stars logo and they
Okay,
know what we're
okay.
about. All right, cool. Listen, the first thing we wanted to kick off and talk about today, although isn't an education topic, it's a topic that is kind of around education. Now, a few weeks ago, and we want to big them up firstly. We want to big them up. We saw there was a viral video that went around of a school kid. Yeah, bullying is a major issue in education. But it was a school kid who was coming home from school, and we've seen a few clips of black children, particularly black children, who are outside of London and are being targeted or seemingly targeted and picked on. So this one was a child and an adult or an older male.
Yeah,
Was it adult?
he looked about 17, 18.
Yeah, yeah.
Boy,
Yeah. Pull that a bit closer. Yeah, he
like
perfect.
that.
Yeah, he had told the little boy to kiss
Kiss
his
his
shoe,
shoes, yeah.
kiss his shoe, and they caught it on camera. And this is quite common among kind of young people to embarrass people. I think it's called embarrass you in 4K or get you
Oh,
in.
is it? Is that a
Yeah, they
thing?
get you in 4K.
Okay.
It's mad. I heard a story the other day. Yeah, like sorry to jump over where a young person was getting like there was something was about to kick off and he called his friend to come and back it. His friend came to back it and then his friend ended up getting beat up.
And he left.
And no, he didn't leave. The original friend who called him watched and videoed his friend getting beat up.
Is that up? Is it a setup?
No, it wasn't a setup.
So why is he recording it?
Because that's what is deemed as entertainment. This is a stone cold honest story.
Tangent. Can we go off?
Yeah, yeah, but
No, we'll talk about that.
we'll talk about that after. But just to show you, this whole get embarrassing people on film is a thing. But the kind of key thing we wanted to talk about is there's kind of two branches to this. There's the quote unquote vigilante, or I'm not going to say vigilante. I'm going to say the community response from firstly, big up Respect, Respect Fire Bingy. Know them man from long time still, been in the community for a good while doing bits. If I remember correctly, my son and nephew were in one of his early music videos.
Okay.
Yeah, like I'm going back now, like over a decade. You get me? So yeah, he's been in the community and he's got the Forever Family, and I think they had a response. They went up. What happened? Did they?
From the clips that I seen, they went up to whatever part of England it was.
Warsaw, lads.
Was it?
Yeah,
Somewhere in the
far.
Midlands.
Yeah, far.
Met the kid.
Mhm.
They met the family.
Yeah.
They enrolled him in a boxing club.
Yeah.
Gave him all the boxing
I
equipment.
think Anthony Joshua or someone donated
Yeah,
some gloves.
Yeah, AJ
Yeah.
reached out to him as
Yeah.
well, and they just set him up with some self defense and kind of mental well being
Yeah.
strategies.
Yeah.
So he if he's in that position again, he's better able to equip himself, throw them hands.
Yeah, and respect to them man there.
Yeah.
For that, and I see the work they're doing. I know they're controversial. I know there are some figures. I'm not even saying the community. They're seen as a controversial group.
Yeah, I can understand that. Can I talk? On
Yeah,
that?
no, man. Talk honestly, man.
I can understand that from the perspective of. Okay, here's the analogy I'll use. Let's say that there's an issue in school. There's an altercation with two students in school, and then a parent finds out about it, and the parent comes down and switches on one of the kids. They're like, "Yeah, I'll tum you up. Go and get your dad as well. I'll tum them up." From a professional and educational perspective, I don't think that's a constructive way to deal with that. Like adults threatening children,
Yeah.
albeit on behalf of their child, is something that I'm not particularly cool with. And I can see how there's the same on one level.
It could be framed in that
Yes,
way. Yeah.
yes,
It could be
yes.
framed as like vigilante justice. The school's not doing anything, so the adults are going to get involved,
Yeah.
and ultimately when adults get involved with the protection of children, it usually can go left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's not the ultimate stance I hold, but I can see that perspective.
Cool. I respect the work that them man do. To be honest with you, more so from a perspective of showing a sense of solidarity and unity.
Yeah.
In that there's certain things that we won't stand for, because we have to appreciate and acknowledge historically within the education system there have been injustices that have been exacted upon black people,
Yeah.
where let's say, for example, you're in a school where you're a minority and you're being bullied, and you bring it to staff, senior management, and nothing is done.
Yeah.
Like, we know these stories. You speak to parents, grandparents, that's kind of standard. So to have something in place, like even if it's a figure, like an organization,
Protection, and
Yeah.
it's known protection.
Yes.
I remember seeing a clip where people were talking about how different the school treated their child once the teachers or the school realized
Is the dad involved?
Yes.
I've been bro.
Was it you that we were talking about?
No, I've been speaking about this. I've spoken about this several times, and I saw the clip.
It was. I think you.
I've spoken
Okay,
about.
go on,
Listen,
yeah.
I've spoken about this.
The way that the child is interacted with
Yes.
from the school's perspective,
yeah.
because the school now, it's just like a subconscious belief, like, oh, okay, this kid's
And
it's got more to them.
and ultimately, that's one of the because I saw it with my own dad.
Go on.
Yeah, I saw it with my own dad, and I think I've spoken about it. I've done lives and this, that, and the where my mum and dad weren't talking. Yeah, beef. Yeah. However, they'd arrive at parents' evening together. Present as a united front. Listen, at the end, cut. But what it meant, because my dad,
we can't let them think
yes,
that we're not a team,
Yes.
because that will have an impact on his whole development because of the perception that they have of him.
and it's
And that
interesting.
was, sorry to ask, cut across, but
Yeah.
was that conscious? The
Yes.
conscious decision they made.
Yes. My dad, my brother, older brother has, I want to say resentment, but he's like, oh, it was all a front, but like, it's like, oh, he's like,
Hey, political.
yeah,
PR.
it was PR. It was PR. It was PR. Like, my dad would come. I remember he'd usually come like fairly. My dad was a well dressed man, but he would come well dressed in a long kind of trench coat.
Yeah.
Like, I remember them time they he had the chaps and that. Like, say he'd have the gold chaps. It was like my mum was a professional.
Yeah.
Listen, they presented well.
But it counts.
It
Counts.
and
Perception is reality.
even if we talk about behind the scenes, because this is what, as two senior leaders, we talk about. Let's be honest, we talk about parents.
Yeah. Facts. If I can give you an example,
Yeah,
if you have conversations with fellow professionals about the needs of students, just to speak candidly, if there are students that have additional needs and we have to respond as a institution to meet the needs of those students, the rigor in which you support that child and the speed in which you support that child, the reality of it is influenced by the perception you have of the family.
yes,
Because there are a multitude of factors that contribute to that. We're all busy in the busy days, and there are so many things that we have to deal with. But if you've got something that you need to address, and you know, if I don't address this in a timely fashion, this parent, I know I'm gonna get a call from this parent, or I know I'm gonna get an email from this parent, or this parent's gonna be on it.
top of your agenda.
It changes how you respond to it.
And how this kind of, because people, how this link into the vigilante thing, a lot of parents and a lot of parents are disempowered. They don't understand how the power dynamic within a school works. And although I big up what they're doing, I think it's a shame that they even have to be there.
Yeah.
You with me? I think that's my take, that Like, why? If you have a solid unit community, it shouldn't be, because I feel it for Aspect and them guys, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what their GoFundMe is. I don't know what charitable organization they've
Yeah.
set up, yeah, to ensure that they do the work that they do.
Yeah.
But I know traditionally, the community that they're serving aren't the communities who are going to be pumping money into that type of thing,
Yeah.
and making sure that the Raspects and the Farron, who does the knife amnesty thing. I saw those guys link up, who are doing, like, going out there front line on the streets,
Yeah.
that they're nice. And I don't know them man personally, but I know of them man. They're in the community. They're the kind of guys that are gonna be like, rah, like, we're doing the work. We don't really need it. Like, we're not. But their family should be nice. They should be. They should be in a comfortable position based on the work that they do.
Yeah.
Based on the work that they do, because they're out there. Yeah. However, my thing is, as a community, we'll repost. Yeah. Comment. Great work. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
But the foundation of why there even needs to be those kind of guys
Doesn't get critiqued.
isn't really critiqued or analysed in a way. And it comes back down to, bringing it full circle, mum and dad focusing, coming together to make decisions for that youth. Because you were saying earlier off mic, you were saying, I know, me and Noah said that could, and I don't want to bring any shame on that youth, yeah? I can't imagine a world where a white brother's telling me to kiss his boot and somebody are dead. To the world in which I come from.
You know them ones.
Yeah, that, and I'm 6, 7, so on and so forth, because I was programmed from my parents, both my mum, like that. That's never good. But you could see the fear in that youth's eyes. You could see the fear, and that fear came from knowing you don't really have any backing.
Yeah, there's no support. It's the understanding or the belief that there's no support that you have there. So you then have to make a decision based off what you're prepared to deal with. Am I willing to be put in a position where I get beat up in this instance, or I'm willing to sacrifice my pride and my and whatever comes with that? And that's just me on my own.
I'll give you an example. Sorry to cut you, and it literally just came to mind. We moved to Enfield, so the Enfield now in North London, and the Enfield was two different places. So we moved there like in the 80s, and it was still very predominantly white.
Yeah.
You had NF. People don't really know about NF, and there was a family, and I was riding my bike, and they threw a box at They started F black this, black that, So I was like, what?
How old are you?
6?
Okay.
Yeah, 6, 5, 6. Anyway, I'm going to get my brother. When I got my brother, they got their older brother. Their older brother's a proper NF. You with me?
You what?
Yeah, I think they threw a box at my brother's head, this, that, and the other. So my older brother, called my dad.
Yeah.
My dad and my uncle, who happened to be over from Jamaica,
Came true.
went to the yard, rolled up, knocked on the door, and stuck it on them. No ifs, no buts, no maybes. Yeah, there was. I remember for years my brother said he'd see him and he'd go, "Daddy's boy." That's as much as he'd butter under him. Yeah, but he knew what time it was.
Yeah, you might say that, but you ain't gonna say anything.
Yeah,
else,
we've rolled. Yeah, we've rolled up on a thing like, listen, coming to the end. It's not that.
So the two things there. One, you having the belief that, yo, you know who my people are, innit? And then secondly, if you didn't do that, if you would have been punked, and then you would have gone home and told them you got punked, it's not just about you. It's the who you represent, your family you represent. I know that your dad and your brother would have been like, and what did you do?
Yeah.
So you just let that man there do you up. Nah.
And I think we've evolved into, it's sad to say what it's evolved into, where we have children who who are very frightened and very scared and don't have that inner belief and inner confidence that somebody is there to back them up.
Because they're not. The reality is, more often than not, they're not.
Yeah, they're separate from their communities. They're separate from their families. And I think, yeah, you were saying it. You were saying earlier, like being in these spaces.
That is a thought that crossed my mind. I can't lie. There was a lot. There were a lot of emotions that ran through my mind when I seen that clip. One of the emotions was, why are you putting yourself in this position? And I know we were talking about earlier about the lack of options are there.
Yeah.
The lack of options are there. But it's still like the naivety. This is controversial, I can't lie.
Say
So
it.
straight away I was vexed at the family. So you didn't know that your son's walking through these bare racist ends. And this is a potential for that to happen. You didn't know that. And if you didn't, you're naive, ignorant. Either way, none of those things, the output of those things, whether or not it's in your control or not, the output of those things still put you and your family at risk. And that's annoying.
So
That's frustrating to me.
this is now where I'm gonna.
You're going to say it's out of their control.
I'm not even gonna say it's out of their control. You know, I'm gonna be honest as a father of black children. Now, I've raised my children in the ends, and I'm something up in the ends.
Yeah.
There's pressure to that. There is a constant. I was told the other day by you don't know. Yeah, you grew up like 20, 25 years ago in the ends. How the ends is running now, bro?
It's different.
It's not that. Man don't care who you are. Man don't care. Like, people,
I understand
they don't care. So
I understand that.
it's a catch-22 situation. Do you grow up in a community where you are the majority? However, there are certain issues, quote unquote, the ends, that your youths are going to have to deal with. Particularly if you're in a single parent home, the fear of your child, particularly your son, being stabbed, being attacked, or so on and so forth, you can't risk that. So you're going to move maybe a bit further out, and I know a lot of parents do it, where what would you prefer? Your youth potentially getting stabbed or your youth potentially getting embarrassed?
See, I don't use those as those two options.
But that's really what it is.
But I think that there is another drawback or downside to the embarrassment category.
Go on.
Moving out of an area where you're not the majority. Your identity, I think it significantly impacts your identity unless there are intentional steps and conscious decisions made by your family to develop your identity and self-esteem. And I'll tell you why. If you're in an environment where you don't have a sense of belonging, Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're in an environment where you don't have a sense of belonging, that significantly hinders your ability to maximize your potential or meet your full potential. And race plays a huge part of that. If you grow up in an ends where you're the only black kid and everyone else around you is white, that hinders your self-esteem and your sense of identity. Now, how are you gonna grow up in the world? Either one of a few things happen. Either you assimilate and then you just disregard your that whole black side of you, or you kind of delve into it and you try and find that and seek that out. And then you just completely reject all of those things, and then you just become this fake. It's not fake, but we all know those black kids that didn't really grow up in the ends, and there's just something about them.
They're hyperbolized. They're like they're exaggerated. Yeah.
Exactly. Either way, that's a hindrance to your sense of belonging, your identity, and your self-esteem. How detrimental is that to an individual, and then subsequently our people?
And I hear you, and I'm somebody who has always been, but I have to realize I'm privileged when I speak from my perspective. So as I just said, I could grow up in the ends because I could call my brother and I could call my dad.
Yeah.
You get me? So there was a level of protection so my mum wasn't worrying to the extent of maybe her friends who didn't have that partner, that their children's father, their husband, to offer that protection.
I get it, and
So the question is, so at least they can maybe even find their identity at some point throughout their lives, but they're still alive to do it.
would okay. Here's a question, hypothetical.
Yeah.
5 years time,
Yes.
your children are at an age where they're then obviously they're living on their own. They're setting up their own nuclear families. What would your thoughts be if one of your children said, "Pops, I'm moving to Carlisle"?
Why? First thing I'm gonna say, why? If it's bread, yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Because the reason is, and again,
Where's the money after?
yeah, if it's what they paying you. Because I'm open to people moving. I'm open to people moving because if it's my children, I think they have been embedded in their culture enough. Your culture isn't necessarily where you live. Your culture isn't defined by the culture
Nah,
is
you're right.
about your practices, about your belief systems, about your belief systems, your so on and so forth. So if it's a thing where I'm on, I say me a Rasta, you know. You go, means a Rasta, and I'm a Rasta in Carlisle.
Doesn't matter
I'm a
where.
Rasta in flipping Dubrovnik. I'm a Rasta in wherever it is.
Yeah, no,
I'm
you're right.
eating ital, my bun weed, whatever
no,
those.
you're right. And the household and
Yes.
your connection to your ancestry
Yes.
and your identity
Yes.
it supersedes
Yes.
your external environment.
Yes. And don't get
Yeah,
me wrong,
you're
the
right,
community,
you're
the
right.
community you're in should be able to harness that. But I personally, I would like to think the other day my daughter said something and I looked at her, we've almost discussed, yeah.
What?
She said, "Oh, where should I go this summer?" I said, "Jamaica." I said, "Oh, she goes, Daddy, I've been to Jamaica. Like, to be honest, I've been to Jamaica a lot of times." And I looked at her and thought, "You spoiled little scumbag, yeah." Like I said, "Are you aware that is
Yeah, I think he's dropped that
yeah,
willy nilly, you know.
yeah." Oh, Dad, like I've been so many times, like, oh. And I was like, but for her, Jamaican culture isn't
Standard.
something you eat, isn't something. It's what we are.
Yeah.
It's what we are. It's
Yeah.
how we. Even though sometimes I'm Jamaican is what we are.
There's no escaping it.
There's
and
no-
there's no desire to escape it. This is fundamental to who we are.
But we have
I
to
say
be.
we.
Yeah, we've got to be, or whatever your culture is, we've got to be fundamental within that culture. And the problem is, when we get to these things, when we get to issues like moving out and so on and so forth, and isolating ourselves, we have to be very, very, very careful. Today's SLT podcast is sponsored by none other than More Education, the UK's leading online black-owned supplementary service.
Guaranteed grades. Sorry.
Guaranteed grades or your money back.
Oh my
I love that. Tell us about the guaranteed grades, bro.
Guaranteed grades, you know. 6s, 7s, 8s. Don't watch that. You getting it?
All right. I didn't say it. I didn't say it. But make sure, if you want to find out where your child is, what's happening with your child, how we can support, we've got amazing facilities. Log on to moreeducation.co.uk. And at the moment, we are doing an offer for £47. You can have an assessment, so we can tell you exactly what your child's doing in maths and English, where they are, what they need to improve on, and a consultation where you get to sit down with me and I discuss how to plot the next steps of your child's road to success. Log on moreeducation.co.uk. What do we say?
Guaranteed grades. Okay, so bringing it back to the how this started in regards to my feelings towards the fact that kid was even in that position in the first place.
Yeah.
Counter or other consideration. I'm gonna speak from an anecdotal basis, but I also believe that the statistics bear this out as well.
Yeah.
If we look at the young people that are at the most risk of exclusions, the young people that are at the most risk of getting caught up in the streets,
Mm-hmm.
the young people that are the most risk of not excelling in education.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to say that there is a correlation between those young people and the generation in which the difference between their generation and their families are.
Mm-hmm.
To be more specific, first generation Africans and Caribbeans, when they have children, that if you've moved here
Mm-hmm.
and then you have children that grow up here, but your understanding of here is not as tuned in as your kids,
Mm-hmm.
your kids then hoodwink you, and then you don't have a real understanding of the risks and the environment that your kids are in, to the detriment of the kids.
True.
I'll give you an example. So a specific example, and then I'm gonna reference the Windrush generation and how their children, the stuff that their children went through is in large part because at the time those families didn't really have an
Yeah,
understanding
yeah,
of
yeah.
how hostile
Yeah,
the education
very
system
true,
was.
very true.
I remember a parents' evening. There's a kid. You remember this kid? As I'm obviously not going to say the name,
Yeah.
but do you remember this kid? And
Give me a tie. Is it a
orange
tie?
ties.
Okay. Say no more.
Yeah.
Yeah, say orange
I
tie.
remember being in a parents' evening with this mum and the kid. Yeah, he's doing okay. We just need to do this, and that. Mum's like, I'm glad and thank you for all the support you're doing, blah, 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 whatever. Here's mum. The only concern I have is homework club. I think the homework club finishes. You know what I'm gonna say, innit? Homework club finishes quite late. I
Yeah.
don't like the idea of my son coming home at 10 o'clock because he's been in
At
homework
10
club.
o'clock?
10 p.m. This is a year 9 kid, 13, 14. Mum saying, I don't like the idea of my kid coming home at 10 p.m. because of homework club. The homework club doesn't finish at 10 p.m., Mum. Furthermore, your son doesn't go homework club. He's out in these streets. And the fact that Mum was not aware of that being an issue, I do think that there's a correlation between that and the you being in a new environment, you not understanding the systems of.
So you're
of-
saying putting your child is making them even more vulnerable.
because you don't understand how
Yeah,
the thing
yeah,
runs.
you don't understand,
There's another
yeah.
example more recently where family was new to the country. When you move to a certain borough, they just place you in whatever school is available. Often than not, those schools are
They're
alternative
undersubscribed.
provisions.
Or yes, yeah,
Undersubscribed
yeah.
or alternative provisions. And this one family was saying to me, I can't lie to you. If I would have known that was the type of school that they were sending my son to, I would have never sent him.
Yeah.
But I didn't know, and I didn't have any other options. Now I know that that's not your fault. You're new to the country, and there are so many factors that contribute to you being able to be set up. But so then, where does the burden lie then?
And again, this speaks back to what I was saying about community groups and communities having. I've said this before. Communities having a great impact as opposed to it being singular people. So let's say, for example, and I don't wish this on one day. The likes of your aspects and your Farrons, Faz Amnesty and them man there, they decide or something happens and they can't. You with me? Then what? Because it's a single man thing. It's a one man decides or a small group or decides this is what they're gonna do. It's not embedded within the community.
Yeah.
For it to carry on, like I always use this analogy. Sometimes you make me hear me use the mafia. Yeah, the mafia. You can take. You know the amount of time they've taken out the head of a specific family or organization, but because of how the organization is set up, okay, cool. It doesn't actually matter. They'll just replace that head with somebody else.
Yep.
When they took out John Gotti, they was like, yes. No, there was another leader
That
in
he'd been
place,
training up.
to take on the head, and the thing carries on. So it's more so about
Frank Lucas, Bumpy Johnson.
No, well, interestingly enough, no, because they were singular. They didn't run organizations.
No, because I'm basing this off the American Gangs.
Yeah.
American Gangs haven't read up on it, but he had a connection to the Italian mafia at the time, so he modeled that singular model off him. So he
That's why he
stepped
brought in
up,
his family,
yeah,
but
it
it
wasn't
wasn't
systemic.
it wasn't systematic. It wasn't. It wasn't. That's why the term families. You with me? Because once the father gone, then a son I got come up and take over. Once so on. But with us, our organisations, our movements tend to be within the black community here in the UK.
Whose fault's that? Whose fault's that? Because this, I've asked that question to set up the next thing we'll talk about, so we'll delve into that in more detail later. If we know
Or
this,
in a separate pod.
in a
separate pod, yeah.
Couple weeks.
Yeah. We just happen to be wearing the same clothes. But yeah.
There was continuity. If we know that.
We don't.
To me, we don't.
We don't?
What do you mean we don't? We do.
Not en masse. It's not within the general consciousness.
You
So
can't tell me
the
that.
general consciousness is what we see. We like singular acts of we like singular acts, and again, it is not. I'm gonna say this. Come on, I want a man a car. I don't want a man come say me. What I'm seeing on a podcast. I use it. No, what them man are doing is great. But I'm gonna use Respect as a better example because he understands. I know the organisation that he was previously associated with. Yeah, so he understands organisational thought. He understands Garveyism. And the downfall of Garvey is he tried to build a network outside of himself. Are you with me?
You need the soldiers.
Yes, and you need the soldiers. So he understands what organisation. I know he does. Yeah, and you can have a figurehead. That's fine. You will have figureheads, but once the thing needs to continue. But we are so caught up in singular acts where you get the peak or the million views or the whatever. The other stuff, the boring stuff, the mundane stuff that keeps it ticking over day in, day out, we are less so because, and I'd say the reason why is because we have been so disenfranchised, because we've been so marginalized during our time in this country. When we do get something that gives us a spark, still to this day, that's what we attach ourselves to. We don't attach ourselves to the boring and the mundane.
So, I partly agree with that. I partly think not to evoke the victim mentality, but
careful with that one.
Okay, let me explain what I'm saying. I watched the interview that Navarro Media did with George the Poet recently. He's got a new book coming out, and they did an interview.
Love George.
This guy.
Love George.
The
Love George, bruv.
Levels. Anyway, he was saying the topic was Tupac, and he was talking about how the power of Tupac was linked to his ancestry. He had the Shakors, the Shakur family were the Black Panther family, and his understanding of political movements. Thug life wasn't just a term that he used. He was towards the end of his life, he made reference to thug life being the beginning of a political movement. And one of the things that he referenced was, I say he, I mean George the Poet. One of the things that he referenced was the fact that there is evidence and there's a lot of literature around the CIA intentionally targeting and murdering him because they understand the power of his ability to galvanize movements and how that's being systemically done, particularly in America, being systemically done to black people, the black community. Martin Luther King, Fred Hampton, Malcolm X, all of these political leaders have been intentionally assassinated because we know
COINTELPRO is it? It's called COINTELPRO, yeah.
So that's also a contributing factor because human beings require leadership. The movements don't happen by themselves. There needs to be intentionality. There needs to be direction, and that often requires a figurehead. So, and I do think that yes, it needs to be systematic, but there also needs to be a head of that system. And if you just keep continuously just terrorizing and killing off the leaders of the people that have that understanding, people are going to be lost.
My problem with that, not sorry, the way I said it was like, nah, I just
No,
I just
no, I
dismissed
understand,
everything
I
you said.
understand,
Like,
I understand.
nah, not that. It's not that. My problem is if we have been, and I want to keep it UK based. We've been in the game. Yeah. 7. When did Windrush land? I want to say 47 or 48.
48.
One of them year now. You with me?
Mm.
That's giving us a good like 70 plus years, over 75 years. Yeah. You know how this game works, you know.
I said that, you counted that.
Yeah, like we should know, we should have a greater understanding.
But then the flip side is, again, I'm speaking to your points here, which I think are legitimate. We didn't, when we first reached, we didn't. So we came into it. We came in. I'm gonna say I'm over dramatizing it, but actually the impact that it had on our community is not over dramatizing it. We came into a hostile environment where people were intentionally trying to terrorize us, and we didn't understand that at the time. I'm speaking to the Windrush community, part of the Commonwealth. My understanding is that everybody that came to the UK during the Windrush generation, everyone that was invited to the UK came under the belief that, yo, motherland, that we're part of the team. We're coming to back it for you, man.
Squad.
Not realizing that the hostility that we were walking into. So we didn't know, and then as a result of that, like, there's so much. There is so much trauma that has gone through generationally. Have we recovered from that to a position where we can now have a bit of strength and a bit of we're still picking up the pieces of that. Is I would say.
No. I to some extent I agree, but then I would also say, and I caveat that I'm fully aware that there's probably no other community, if not no other community, that's been through what we've been through in this country. However,
when you say any other community, you would say you're talking about the Caribbean community specifically. Yeah.
However, why do we? And it's deconstruction. We don't have a great amount of people who deconstruct. We have a lot of arguments, but to deconstruct, why is it that in 2024 we need a vigilante group going around protecting our kids and righting the wrongs of righting the wrongs of the community, and something else they do, to be fair. Why do we need a group? Because I said this as well, and I spoke specifically of the Forever Family. I said, yo, see, if we really wanted to, because we're talking about like outside white people who bully black kids, but the biggest problem is Yasa and I get to, the youth that's stabbing each other and so on and so forth. Yeah. As a community, if we wanted to stop knife crime, you get somebody like Forever Family to create I won't say but not a manifesto or a ledger or something that they're willing to commit to the community, and we could fund it. We could have people. You could use the data and statistics that we have on specific areas, specific knife crimes, specific groups, specific age groups, and they could patrol the areas. They could patrol their areas. So in the same way, over the last, I think I spoke about this already, over the last 3 months, in Golders Green and Stamford Hill, which are predominantly Jewish communities, they have their own security force that patrol their areas.
Okay.
Because of political tensions around the world that have been happening. They understand what the threat is, and therefore they've not relied on the Metropolitan Police. They've not gone and complained, oh, the Met Police are not doing this. Yo, they're to pay for their own security. Yeah? They pay for their own security. They're not waiting to, even though they could lobby and get taxpayer.
But they're doing that as well.
So if rather than giving a man 1 million likes for something, and this is where my problem with the vigilante thing is, because we just love the likes and the shares and the hype and
That's substantial.
yeah, but the real substantial stuff would be, okay, we do have some people in our community who've over an extended period of time have shown that they're about it, yeah, i.e. they're committed to the safety of black children, yeah. The biggest issue with the safety of black children is knife crime within the inner cities. Why could we not fund it to have a private security force in some of the most high areas that work alongside in conjunction with local police?
Is that the biggest issue?
If it's about protecting the whole point of the vigilante groups, my understanding, and I'm standing to be corrected in the comments, is where black children have suffered violence or at the hands of other groups. Yeah? And the man has gone up and defended it. Kudos.
But yeah, I understand now.
But the biggest issue
is the violence within.
But you see when that happened, yeah.
Black on black crime.
Yeah. The biggest issue is yeah. Bun them man, right? Let's all. I see that. Yeah, let's all roll up there. Let's do this. Let's do that. Cool. All right, cool. And then we come back down to the ends now, and it's a madness.
No, I agree.
So,
I agree.
But the thing is, it's not like we don't have the resources.
I think it speaks to the point you made earlier about the
So sorry.
Go
Then outside of outside of the social media bubble and all that, it makes them man there look silly. From a wider perspective, it makes if
your community needs their man to come and save you. Actually, you're not doing.
Yeah, like one, you need them to come and save you, and two, the actual real issue in the community of the prevention of knife crime. You man ain't funding them man to do the work in the community. You're not funding them man there to really do the work in the community that really is going to save lives. You lot eaters.
Does that matter? That sound? I agree. I think it that is a fundamental aspect of one of the issues in our community that's not being addressed, and I believe that's a better way to address it. I think it speaks to the point you made earlier about not wanting to do the quote unquote boring stuff. I think about if I think about the Black Panther movement and how people always the perception of what's not often spoke about in the Black Panther movement is one of the most fundamental duties that they had, which was to provide extracurricular activities for kids and provide breakfast clubs for school kids. That's a fundamental aspect of the community, but it's not fashionable, or it's not fancy,
which is a key political point in the upcoming general election.
Exactly.
Free school meals.
Fundamental, which also speaks to, again, I'm jumping all over the place here, but I think it speaks to the there's a thread in that. Who do we glorify? Who are our leaders?
Yeah.
Who do we put on a pedestal? The people that have the most influence and quote unquote clout in our communities are not the people that I would argue should have the most clout and influence in our communities, because we put stock or value in the wrong things.
Listen, we could talk about this all day, but we're gonna wrap it up. Let's wrap up this pod, and we're gonna shout out those people in the community who are doing bits. But I think it's an interesting topic, especially looking at it from an educational perspective. I like the fact that we touched on that, where we're talking about how do teachers, how does school see when these things happen. But listen, let's wrap up this episode of the SLT podcast. Make sure you check us out on Instagram, SLT podcast. We've got the YouTube, which I'm assuming you're following on now. You can check
the YouTube.
I'm showing my age.
Yeah. The YouTube. Do you scroll your phone like this?
Sorry. Yes. I when I search for things on Google, I actually type it in. Do you know that? I don't say, "Hey Siri." So I'm showing my age. I'm old. Yeah. YouTube, Instagram. TikTok.
Facebook link.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone. Thank you very much. Yeah, we'll see you next time on the SLT pod.